needed boat and he needed to find his friends. And they helped him
Good.
fly up, and the angel flew, and then it was snowing feathers,
Mm-hmm.
and then the mice got on the feathers and raced home, and they told their mom about it, and they were snuggling with
Yeah.
feathers, and they were talking about the angel.
And what animal did the angel turn out to be?
A goose?
Mm-hmm. A what?
A goose.
A goose, which is like a type of bird, right? Or a swan. Excellent. Well, Deja, now we're going to go back through and find your sticky notes. And with the little time that we have left, we're going to pick 3 sticky notes that you had trouble with. Because what we want to do is try and figure out just how something is written, how the way something is written supports meaning making. So it helps you make sense of what you're reading. So let's go to the first one. Let's find that first sticky note. Okay. Now what I want you to do is, since we returned back to the sticky note, I want you to write down the whole sentence of where the problem occurred. So where you were stuck or what didn't make sense to you, I want you to write on this sticky note the sentence that came from. Okay? Can you do that for me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, use your pencil and write down the whole sentence of where the problem or where it just didn't sound right to you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you can read it out loud again if you need to hear yourself. And then once you've written down the whole sentence, I want you to underline what part of the sentence you believed caused you to have difficulty. Okay, so we have our sentence, and I want you to underline what part. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were writing more.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought that was the end.
Okay. Now I want you to underline what part of this sentence that you believed caused you a problem, caused you to not make sense of what you were reading. It could be the whole sentence, it could just be a word, but what part was maybe confusing or why it was a problem for you? Okay, now we're going to take this sticky note and we're going to find one more sticky note. So go through and find another sticky note that you had. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to write down the whole sentence or at least part of where the problem occurred, where you had trouble. Okay? and then when you're all done, just stick it right next to this sticky note. Hold on, Deja. I think you missed. Was there a word?
Yeah.
Make sure you write down the whole sentence. Find extra bedding.
That was the word that was missed. That
That you weren't sure of?
Yeah.
Okay, be sure to write it though. So just put a little, just stick it right in there. Yep, you want to include where you had the trouble. Did you include it on this one?
No.
Okay, so write that one, then we'll go back to this one.
Okay. Oh, it was extra. That was supposed to go right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Is the sentence done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go quickly back to the first one and just put in with the area that you had trouble, or that word that you had trouble. So we have crisp morning. A swirl.
She
Of when-
squirreled.
She. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to just look at these two for now. So let's take a look at the first one that you had trouble with. And I want to know why you believe that this was a problem for you. Why could you just not make sense of it?
Because this part right here, it didn't make sense to me at all.
It didn't make sense to you? Can you read it for me?
The whole thing, or
Just the part that didn't make sense.
Mama, Sam woke up. She's weird.
Okay. So since you weren't able to work it out while you were reading, do you know what the sentence was about then? Or do you have a difficulty understanding what it's saying because you don't understand what that is?
I didn't understand what that was.
Right. And most people will have trouble if they don't know what that sentence is supposed to mean, then you're going to have trouble. And that's why this whole lesson is to show you how important it is when, the way something is written, how it supports meaning making. So how could you figure out the meaning of this, Deja? How would you be able to figure out, what strategies could you use to figure out the meaning of that part of the sentence?
Strategy.
What could you do to try and figure out the meaning?
I would try to
Take a look at it, and what do you think you would have to do to try and figure out the meaning? What strategies?
sound it out.
What would you sound out? That word?
Mhm.
That word right there? You want to give it a try?
Mhm.
Okay, give it a try.
Squeal.
Squealed? You think it's squealed? Okay. Could you restate the sentence in your own words to make it more make sense to you? Do you think that you would be able to reword this so it made sense to you? Give it a try.
I don't. Okay. Read the whole thing.
You can give it a try, yeah.
Crispy morning when a swirl of wind woke Daisy. Mom and Sam woke up. She squealed.
She squealed. All right, so originally you weren't even saying squealed. You could not even make sense of that word, right? Now say that if we didn't have that word, would it change the meaning of this part of the sentence?
Yes.
Absolutely it would. I'm glad that you recognize that. And so this just shows you that when something is written a certain way, it supports meaning making. See how when you said squealed, it made sense? Before you had trouble with this sentence because you couldn't understand what that word was, but you applied your strategies to figure out what the word was actually saying, and it made you make sense of that sentence, right? Excellent. Let's take a look at the second one. Okay, I'm going to ask you the same questions. Why was this a problem for you? Oh, don't forget you have to underline where the problem was. Okay. So why do you think that this particular sticky note, because you chose this one, why was it a problem for you?
Because it was a problem for me because
you knew as you read, you looked at me and you were like, I think I need to put a sticky note because something just wasn't clicking. Something was not making
sense.
Exactly. So take a look at that sticky note. And what do you think caused your problem of not making sense? Whether it was a word, punctuation, because you underlined that whole problem, but is there anything specific in that problem?
No.
No, just the whole sentence? Okay. Since you weren't able to work it out while you were reading, or make sense of it while you were reading, do you think you know what the sentence was about? No. Again, just like this first sticky note, the power of making sense of what you're reading. If you don't know what the sentence is about, you just said yourself, if you're not able to work it out on your own, then you won't understand the meaning of it. So how, again, could you figure out the meaning of this sentence? Because this is a lot longer than your first sticky note. So how would you figure out the meaning for this one? What strategies could you use?
Chunking it.
You could chunk it. All right, give it a try. Give chunking a try, that strategy. Can you show me where you are? Okay, so let's read a little bit before it and then add that word.
Read this.
Mm-hmm.
Fun mom called mom out find bedding to make extra.
To make extra?
Mm-hmm.
Good, and what particular word gave you trouble before?
This one.
Which word?
Bedding.
Bedding. You had trouble with bedding before, but all of a sudden you seem to be able to recognize that word, right? And now that you know this word, you used your chunking strategies. Can you make sense of that sentence? That you can? That's awesome, Deja. That's a great strategy to use. And like you said before, that when you weren't able to use your chunking strategy, you had a hard time saying what the story or what that sentence was about. But now that you use your strategies, you're making meaning of that sentence, right? Absolutely. That's awesome. Now, one more question for you. What could the author have written to make this easier for you to read? If you had this sentence and the author gave you this sentence and said, Deja, what can I do to make this easier for you? What would you suggest? What do you think the author could do to make it easier? Although you ended up getting it using your chunking strategy, but is there anything that you would want the author to change to try and make it easier for you?
No.
No? You would leave it the same?
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. You can do that. But I love how you use that chunking strategy. That's great. So now that we did these 4 questions for each of the sticky notes, I want to ask you just overall, how does the way something is written support meaning making? because we have these 2 sticky notes here, and you underlined where you had trouble originally, and you could not make sense of those sentences. You did not know what was happening. But then you went back through and you used those awesome strategies that I know that you can use when you're reading to make sense. So how does the way something is written support meaning making? How is the way that something is written, the way the author wrote this, it's a conversation, there's quotation marks, the way something is written, how does it support meaning making? The way that you comprehend a text. Because in the beginning we said that the way something is written, sometimes if you don't understand something, it makes prediction hard or easy. When you don't understand something. It makes it hard for you, right? When you're reading something and you don't have background knowledge or you have difficulty understanding the information that's provided, it makes predicting what's going to happen next really difficult. So, how does the way something is written help you predict? In other words, if you understand something, does that help you predict or does it hurt you?
Helps me predict.
It helps you predict. So how is the way that something is written support your meaning making? Supports you comprehending a text?
It helps me because it kind of helps me know the words.
Know the words? Okay. And in the end, does it help you when you are making sense of these sentences? Because before these did not make sense. But now that you understand what these sentences are saying, do you think that they help you predict what might happen next?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Deja, when you're reading, I want you to think of this. When you come to something that you don't know, don't just give up. Because you proved to yourself twice, not even once, but twice, that using your strategies, you are able to make sense of the sentences that you were not able to do before. And not only does that help you make sense of what you're reading, but it helps you predict what might happen next, right? So next time that you read, have a bunch of sticky notes with you, perhaps. And when you come to something that just doesn't make sense, you have a question, you're just having a problem, put a sticky note there. And when you're done reading, go back to those sticky notes and try and reflect on those problems and use the strategies that we used right here to try and make sense of those problems. Does that sound like a plan? Because you have awesome strategies that you have shown me before with our other activities that we did, with that close exercise where we covered up the words. That was great. You made me so proud using those strategies. So continue using those and continue using your pictures like you always do, but start using some sticky notes to help make predictions and recognize real words versus those made-up words that we get stuck using because we don't know the actual meaning of the text. Okay, you want to give that a try? All right, well, great job today. I guess we'll be done, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, good job.